being evil is a spectrum. On one hand, you have people who occasionally steal a french fry when their friend isn't looking, while on the other we have Mindy, the slimy excuse of a human who trades you a haunter holding an Everstone and then gloats about it. And somewhere in between those two, we find the many evil teams of the Pokémon series, the ones I want to cover today, and see where exactly they would fall on a scale like this. And of course, we're also gonna answer that highly coveted question: what is the most evil team in Pokémon? And yes, that even includes spin-offs. Let's begin with the ones you can honestly barely even consider evil, just so we have them out of the way. Team Star is probably the least evil team of all and the closest to being qualified as misunderstood. While they are said to engage in bullying and disrupting the activities of the academy, I would say their gripes with the institution are understandable and not born out of purely malicious intent. The people in Team Star, from the leaders to the grunts, are not evil folks, simple as that. The same applies to Team Skull and Team Yell, two quite similar institutions from Alola and Galar, which do engage in a bit more disrupting of society, Skull more so than Yell. While both have definitely broken the law, I would assume, I mean, Team Skull literally takes over an entire town, I wouldn't say the members or the leaders of these organizations are really evil. They're not misunderstood, like the leaders of Team Star, but they're petty criminals at most. The other evil organizations from their games, Macrocosmos and the Ever Foundation, also definitely are not among the most evil of all. Especially Macrocosmos and their leader Rose can barely even be qualified as evil. Even though they take huge risks with the region of Galar and its safety, and their plan is frankly stupid beyond belief, I haven't necessarily seen anything in Rose to make me suggest he has evil and malicious intent. And his grunts definitely aren't evil, they're just employees. Something similar we can find with the Ever Foundation, where the employees aren't even to be considered evil, they're honestly great people working for a charity that helps hurt Pokémon. Their leader Lucamine is a foul person from what we've come to know of her personal life, especially in the original Sun and Moon, but her actions as president of the Ever Foundation are nothing too evil in the grand scheme of things. Especially when you consider we don't know to what extent Lucamine really is in control of her own actions, as she is under the influence of Nihilego. That said, the Ever Foundation does provide a good example of something that is vital to consider for this video. How evil a team is not just defined by their leader or leadership. It's about the entire team, not just the end goal of the maniac in charge. Whether the grunts or other low members are also evil people and wittingly performing foul actions factors in greatly in regards to how evil a team is. And with the Ever Foundation, there is a huge contrast between the behavior of Lucamine, who might be bordering on evil depending on how you look at it, and the behavior of her grunts, who really just joined the organization because they are good people and want to help Pokémon. So yeah, they're off the hook. But let's continue with some spin-off evil teams who are definitely in the lower ranks of evil, like Team Break from Pokémon Masters. They're quite similar to Team Skull, I would say, mostly engaging in a disrupting of the main battling structure of their region and generally causing trouble, which is annoying of course, but doesn't necessarily make their members evil or malicious people. They're once again petty criminals and don't really have a vision or a larger plan. The Ranger family from the now discontinued Pokémon Jewel also fit this category, as while they are guilty of shady business practices, they've never gone even remotely as far as some other villains, although Pokémon Jewel was discontinued before the story could come close to an end. So it is possible that if we had been able to see the Rogers at the climax of the game, they would have been higher up on the list. Unitas from the second Detective Pikachu game mirrors the Ever Foundation quite closely, in the sense that the project itself is advertised and said to be used for good, but the leader has different plans that not all other members know about. Just like with Lucamine, I wouldn't say Murloc, the mastermind behind Unitas, is truly evil, and his goal is not malicious towards other people really, he's more a tad too ruthless in how he wants to achieve it. We're sliding a bit further up the scale of evilness now, where we find organizations that definitely perform very dangerous and illegal activities, but their grand plan is not super malicious and more based on personal motivations. An example of this from the main series evil teams are Team Magma and Aqua. They respectively want to expand and reduce the land mass of the world, which they truly believe to be the right thing to do. And honestly, it seems like they either underestimated the power of Groudon and Kyogre or just didn't think this all the way through. This is indicated by the fact they are one of the few villains in the series who actually end up seeing the error of their ways, going as far as to help the player during the Delta episode and being basically protagonists in the opposite version of the game. While they obviously could have easily destroyed the world with their actions, it never really felt to me like there was malicious intent to that, as we will see later with other main series villains. But first, we have some more spin-off evil teams to cover. The Go Rock Squad from the first Pokémon Ranger is entirely based on the jealousy their leader Gordor has for his former friend Professor Hastings, to the point he ends up doing a lot of harm to the Pokémon of the region, the powerful legendary beasts included, but at the end of the day, it's not like the organization is after world domination or anything. Gordor just wants to prove he is smarter than Hastings, that's essentially it. It's similar to the villains of Gen 8, in the sense that it takes understandable human emotions to the extreme, instead of being truly evil. I'm also just gonna throw the Phobos Battalion in here, the villains of Pokémon Trozei, which yes, did have a story mode for some reason. Their goals are honestly unclear, and they are the only evil team in this entire video who consist entirely of upper management. They have no grunts. They are however responsible for kidnapping a whole lot of Pokémon, but we never really find out their true goal. I mean, they kidnap these Pokémon to use their energy to power up their super weapon, but what their plans are with that weapon is not entirely clear. I doubt it's anything good, but we can judge what we don't know, so I figured I'd put them here as basically the most textbook definition of evil. If we go up even further, we begin to slowly find truly evil and malicious organizations, at least in terms of what their main plans are. Team Plasma in the first Black and White is probably up next, I'd say, as while Ghetsis is a vile, unredeemable leader, the fact of the matter is that in this game, the organization's vision is quite convincingly understandable, even if it was all a ruse. I mean, it convinced N to join his cause, and he's not really evil. The same thing applies to plenty of grunts, who are no longer a part of the group by the time the sequels roll around. As such, true evil is not present in every vein of Team Plasma in the original games, and while Ghetsis' final plan of ruling over Unova as a dictator of sorts is hardly out of good intent, the fact the organization has plenty of members that aren't on board with that leaves them lower on the list than you might have initially thought based on Ghetsis himself. One place higher I would put the Pokémon Pinchers from Pokémon Ranger Guardian Signs. Out of all teams we've seen so far, I'd say the Pinchers are probably guilty of the most severe damage caused to the region. They blow up an entire island, destroy bridges and other important infrastructure, and pose a very serious threat to the region of Oblivia. However, it is indicated their grunts are more mercenaries hired to do a job, rather than people who genuinely perform these actions out of malicious intent. Obviously that doesn't make them good people, but it doesn't necessarily make them evil either. The leadership of the organization, known as the Society, know damn well what they're doing though and are definitely evil, but their true goal is not as malicious as even Ghetsis. They want to live forever and have eternal youth, which is more understandable than wanting to become a dictator, even if they go way too far in reaching it. That said, they are the last evil team left where you could make an argument that their goals are understandable to a certain extent. From here on out, it's all for personal gain, the desire for power, or a truly wicked vision for the world, from top to bottom in the organization. And out of those, I would say Team Rocket is probably the least evil. They are essentially the Pokémon mob, stealing, kidnapping, sending threats, all are part of Giovanni's master plan to make as much money and gain as much control as possible. From that standpoint though, you could argue they should actually be lower, as they're essentially very successful petty criminals, with a leader who even changes their ways later on. However, what I think needs to be considered is that Team Rocket is one of the few organizations where we know for a fact that every single person in it is evil. There is no philosophy for you to agree with here. If you're a member of Team Rocket, you're a criminal without remorse. It's that simple. And don't forget, these folks are guilty of the murder of Pokémon, whereas most evil organizations plan for that to happen, but it never actually does because we stop them. Team Rocket has already done that. But yeah, at the end of the day, the fact Giovanni changes his ways and the organization is not looking for world domination are in this context enough to keep them below the teams left to cover. In a similar camp, albeit slightly more evil I'd say, are Neo Team Plasma from our second visit to Unova and Team Dim Sun from Pokémon Ranger Shadows of Almia. The latter's plan is to enslave all Pokémon to produce limitless energy for All True Incorporated, the company of their leader Blake Hall. Throughout the game they quite often manage to brainwash Pokémon and make them do their bidding, although the player steps in before things ever truly go dire. They do show a complete disregard for the safety of both people and Pokémon, to the point they try to drown the player in a sinking ship. And fun fact, although I guess it's not very fun, is that this might be the only moment in the Pokémon series where you as the player can actually die. You have 4 minutes to evacuate the ship, and if you don't, the screen starts to shake and then turns black before the ship sinks with you inside. And Team Dim Sun was responsible for that. Now, canonically, this of course doesn't happen, whereas Team Rocket and the Marowak for example does, but it still shows Team Dim Sun is quite severe. Neo Team Plasma is not too different from Team Rocket. They both are run similar to real-life criminal organizations and aim to steal Pokémon, but unlike Giovanni, Getsis has a larger goal with it all. Ruling Unova by taking away their Pokémon, and he plans to freeze over the entire region to make that easy to do. We even see them do as much in Opelousas City of course. Also important to consider is that, like Team Rocket, Neo Team Plasma is evil from top to bottom, as the events of the first game have weeded out any folks with a kinder heart and a belief in the original vision of Team Plasma. But evil as they may be, Team Plasma is not directly linked to homicide and only has plans with Unova, which doesn't apply to our top 3, which are up next. In third place we have Team Galactic, who are of course led by Cyrus, who plans to reset the entire universe and shape it to what he wants. Now, it is never really made clear how exactly Cyrus plans to survive the end of literally everything, and I've always kind of interpreted more as a suicide mission, although Cyrus himself doesn't seem to view it that way. What is also a little ambiguous is to what extent members of Team Galactic know his true plan. That said, even if they don't know he plans to destroy literally everything, them included, they still steal, detonate bombs and perform other very dangerous and illegal activities, and are completely cool with that. So even if they don't want the universe gone, they're at least all evil in their own right. However, since Team Plasma never really harms people during the events of the Sinnoh games, nor does it have a grand plan that discriminates, which yes, is a deciding factor as you'll soon see, they'll have to make do with the third spot in this video. In second place we have what is essentially Team Rocket on steroids. Cypher, the evil organization found in Ore, the setting of Pokémon Colosseum and XD Gale of Darkness. Not only do they steal Pokémon in large numbers and generally terrorize the region, they also torture Pokémon to the point they close their hearts, creating shadow Pokémon, which they not only sell, but also use frequently to attack innocent people, leaving them with severe injuries. This is behavior we have not seen much in the series. Physical Pokémon on people violence from not just individuals, but consistently by members of the organization. Another thing that makes them essentially Team Rocket 2.0 is that unlike Giovanni's group, they have very clear political ambitions and have infiltrated the leadership of the region, with for example the mayor of Phoenix City being a high-ranking member of Cypher. They are the most violent evil team we've ever seen, and one of the most invasive, dangerous and tenacious as well, so I would say they are easily among the most evil villains we've ever fought. However, there is one group whose goal is so vile, so incredibly evil, that they have to get the top spot. And that is Team Flare. Yeah, it sounds almost unbelievable because these clearly were not designed to be taken super seriously, at least not as serious as Cypher, Team Plasma or Team Rocket, but their end goal is arguably the worst thing a group of humans can ever do. I mean, this plan is eerily similar to what a certain Austrian leader tried to do during the 1940s that I feel like I better not mention out of fear of getting demonetized, but I think you get what I mean. Lysander's vision is to create a world of only beauty, which for him means everyone but his own kind has to die, Pokémon and people included. It's somewhat similar to what Cyrus was cooking, but at least Cyrus didn't discriminate in who was kept around, he was just taking everyone out. Lysander isn't, he just doesn't like you, and you, but those who are of a certain level of beauty and style are welcome to stay. It is presented in a lesser threatening and intimidating way than most other evil teams, but make no mistake, What Lysander is planning is truly evil, and we have no reason to indicate his grunts aren't on board with it. After all, they'd be staying as well, and essentially consider themselves worthy to live, while everyone else has to die. In the process, he commits countless acts of theft, destroys Geosenge Town, and even when he is of course finally thwarted, he doesn't repent, but instead goes as far as to presumably bury himself on the rubble in an effort to take you along with him. While Lysander once allegedly had noble intentions, what he ended up becoming is the leader of the most evil organization Pokémon has ever seen. In my eyes, at least. But what do you consider the most evil team in Pokémon? And which of my rankings would you change? Share it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel to stay updated on all my future Pokémon content coming up. For now, thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.